story of the boy who went forth to learn fear. Once upon a time, there was a father with two sons. The first was clever and intelligent, and the second was stupid and labeled a burden. One day came when the youngest became big and strong, and the father demanded that he learn the skill that he learned and make money off of. The boy requested that he learn how to shudder. For everybody else knew how to, but he didn't know. The father laughed at him, but agreed, but told him, learning how to shudder won't get you anywhere. So the father asked the sexton for help, and the sexton tells him that if the boy stays with him and rings the clock bell tower every single night at midnight, he'll learn how to shudder. So the boy stays with the sexton, and at midnight he goes to the clock tower and he rings the bell. But standing there was a ghostly white figure waiting for him. The boy tells the ghostly white figure to identify himself, but he doesn't. So the boy asks multiple times, even threatening him. But the ghost says nothing. So the boy pushes the ghost down the stairs. And without a second thought, he goes back to bed. In efforts to find her husband, the sexton's wife goes to the boy and wakes him up. This is when the boy tells her about the intruder that could quite possibly be the sexton. Upon finding her husband, the wife sees he has a broken leg, and enraged, she kicks the boy out. And unable to go back to his father, he goes out on his own, always singing to himself, to impress my father, to show it to my brother. If only I could shudder. If only I could shudder. This is when a man heard him. Told him about a tree with 7 hanging men down by the gallows. He said if you could stay under there for a night, you'll surely learn how to shudder. So the boy agrees, wanting to learn his lesson, and waits till midnight. This night was cold, so he builds a fire, but he was still cold, and he can only imagine what the other men above him were feeling. So he brings them down with him and sets them by the fire. But these men didn't move, and as the fire grew, it caught them on flames. "Move," says the boy. But they didn't say anything, for they were dead. So the boy, in fear of the men getting hurt, he hangs them back up and then goes back to bed. This is when the man comes back the next morning and asks if the boy learned his lesson. The boy says no. None of those men didn't even speak. They just caught on fire. Didn't say anything. They couldn't teach me. So the man left, saying, "Never did I ever see a boy like this." And then the boy left as well, seeing that he wasn't going to learn his lesson. But a little ways down the road, he would always say to himself, to impress my father, to show it to my brother. If only I could shudder. If only I could shudder. This is when an innkeeper comes and tells him about a haunted mansion. It was promised that if anybody could stay there for 3 nights, the king would give his daughter for marriage. There was also plenty of gold and treasures to be found in there. So the boy agrees to stay there for 3 nights. And with permission from the king, he was able to bring 3 things: a fire, a lathe, and a woodcarver's bench with a knife in it. The first night comes and it was cold, so he built a fire. When he did, he heard 2 voices in the background saying, "Oh, how cold we are. How cold we are." So the boy invited them by the fire. But his guests weren't who he thought would be. There were two large black cats with large claws. In the efforts to kill time, the black cats offered a game of cards. The boy agreed. But first he asked them to see their paws. And upon showing their paws, they showed their claws, which were massive and sharp. And the boy had a very strange feeling. So he captured them to cut their nails before he wanted to play cards. But he knew that's not how it would end. So he killed them. After doing so, this brought out the whole family. But he was brave and he didn't back down. So he took his knife and he hacked away. Hacked. Most of them died, but most of them left. And once all of them were gone, he went back to sleep. Upon the second night, more and more undead men would come out from the chimney. They brought with them 9 bones and 2 skulls. And to his amazement, in front of his eyes, they sat down and they started to bowl. Now he was intrigued and interested and he wanted to play. So he asked, "Can I play?" But they said, "Only if you have money." "Oh, I've got plenty," he says. And he joins. He even smooths out the skull to make them a better bowling ball. But unfortunately, the clock struck midnight and the fun was over, for the undead men disappeared. The third night came, and so did 6 men carrying a coffin. And he thought to himself, "Oh, this is it. That has to be my dead cousin. He just died a little while ago. He'll teach me how to shudder." And then opening the casket, he saw that it wasn't his cousin. It was just some man. So, out of the kindness of his heart, he warmed him by the fire. But he couldn't. And he thought to himself, it's usually body heat that really helps. So he brings him upstairs and sets him in bed. He covers both him and the man under the sheets. And as the man started to thaw off and warm up, he said to him, "I'm gonna kill you." But the boy wasn't scared. Seeing that the man was ungrateful, he threw him back in his coffin. And after doing so, a large old man appeared. But the boy showed no fear again, for he knew he was stronger than the old man. So, with a swift swing of his axe, he pinned the old man down by his beard to the floor and started to beat him. After this, the old man gave in and surrendered and gave the boy his prize. It was 3 chests full of gold. The first for the poor, second for the king, and third for himself. After this, the prizes were gave, the old man left, and the boy went back to sleep. The next morning the king came and saw the boy survived. So he asked, "Did you learn how to shudder?" "Not at all," said the boy. "There were so many people, but none of them could teach me how to shudder." And with amazement, the king married his daughter to the boy. And even though the young king was happy, he still will always say to himself, "If only I could shudder. If only I could shudder." This angered his wife. So in efforts to teach her husband a lesson, she went to the river and caught a bucket full of minnows and threw it on the boy. "Oh, what's making me shudder? What's making me shudder? Dear wife. Yes, now I know how to shudder."